And for those of you who have been using it, making the most of the Slido tool to add your comments and ask questions. We haven't all mastered the powers of bilocation yet, so you obviously haven't been able to go to all the sessions, but don't worry, tomorrow in our closing we're going to have feedback from all of those breakout sessions. So if you didn't hear something, you will be able to hear from some of those session rapporteurs what exactly was discussed, and hopefully we'll find a few strong red threads as well. This next session is going to be hosted by Armin, who you saw on stage earlier today. We're going to be talking about refining the strategic partnership on CCAM. And Armin, I think you're going to talk a lot about the public consultation, the partnership, the update of the CCAM strategic research and innovation agenda. But I'm going to hand over to you to introduce your co-speakers and let you take it away.
Is working now. Thank you. Welcome back after the coffee break. The last session for today before we move over to the outer world reception. I'm happy to be here again from this morning's plenary and introduce two panels in this session. As it's mentioned here, we will have first panel with Henriette, Christian and Mats. I will introduce them shortly in their role of CCAM, talking about large-scale demonstrations mainly, but also the different use cases in the different areas of road transport. And then we have a second panel with Margrethe, Stefan and Gerion. All of them are part of the famous executive group of the CCAM partnership. So I'm very happy to have all of you, my colleagues, with me on the panel. It's a quite nice possibility to do that. What do we talk about here? It's about the update of the Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda. And with this, I can formally open the public consultation of this CCAM Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda. We have established this with the founding the partnership 3 years ago, and now we are updating in the midterm of this partnership program, and we have done a lot of steps to make this update, and it's looking very much into updates of what is the political situation now. We started under COVID regime, let's say. Now we are really back in real life. Hope we will have nothing else in the second half of the partnership in this direction. And we are also now adapting the content. I mentioned in the first panel this morning that many things have been aligned a lot already, but after the 3 years now, we have a lot of more alignment between us and also in the community. And we are seeing many projects coming up and having even more focus on the second part of the partnership, which is based on the first years. So we have the calls for 21, 22 and 23 out there. And also the call for the 24 projects is already published. It will be called then officially next year in the same period of time from May to September. So the call for 23 is out tomorrow. Till September, the projects are starting their preparations, and we will see a good program there. But this is all the baseline for the second half. And in the second half, we will have a separate call in 25, and then the final calls of 26 and 27 together to really establish large-scale demonstrations. This is the core of the partnership, and we are preparing for that right now. And in my first panel, I will speak a lot about this with Henriette Cornet. You have seen her at the last breakout session here in the room. She's leading the show project and also leading Cluster 1, which is large-scale demonstration in the partnership. Then we have Christian Scharnhorst from Bosch. He is my co-chair in the administration board of the partnership, and together with Serge van Dam from Rijkswaterstaat. And we have Mats Rosenquist from Volvo Truck, who is the co-lead of the Cluster 1. The other way around, sorry. Yeah. So these are the two chairs of the Cluster 1. I don't care about co-lead and lead. We are working together very well. So thanks to have you here. And maybe we start with a short round in this direction of really tell us what are your key experiences. And this picture gives you a kind of overview of typical use cases of CCAM. And what is your position in this area, and what are your key experiences of the last years?
Thank you very much, Amin, for the introduction. So yeah, we set up these pictures together, and I am representing the shared mobility area in the whole discussion and the panel that we have now. So that will be the two pictures on the left, where the pictures I selected to represent this shared mobility area. One is from a test site that we have in Frankfurt, which is completely integrated within the public transport. And for me, that's something that's something very, very nice in the project that we had. So it's from the show project, and it's a success, I would say, because thanks to the funding and thanks to this project, the operator, the authority there in Frankfurt were able to put that together in combination with other funding. We have to say, and to make this service happen, it's on demand, it's shared. And then it's now automated with these shuttles, with Easy Mile shuttles. And we can see that more and more, when we talk about shared mobility, it comes naturally to have the shared and on-demand. That's something that we are discussing also a lot within UITP. So I work for UITP, the International Association of Public Transport, that the future of public transport will be on-demand and shared, and automation is kind of a next step. So that's where I situate this, the left picture on the top. And on the bottom, another use case that is also interesting from the show project is retrofitting large buses. And using them, for example, for depot management, where the bus driver can drive the bus normally during the day, and at the end of the day can kind of give the bus to the depot, and the bus will go automatically to the washing area, to the charging area, and you can save a lot of cost because you will not have the driver waiting that all these steps are done. Two completely different use cases, but both within the public transport topic, which I found very essential when we are talking about the future of CCAM.
So I have to mumble. So can you hear me now? It's coming. All right. So as Bosch, we have quite a tradition and history in developing automotive supply system. And also the ADAS branch is something that we have been following since a long time. And there were innovations and inventions on our road, such as ESP, for example. So it was for Bosch only logical to go to highly automated driving, and there, obviously, to display, to showcase vehicles in a real traffic situations, be it now a passenger car or a heavy truck, is serving actually two targets or two aims. One is that you have to run these vehicles in a situation, in a traffic situation, to develop the technology, to spot the weaknesses and work constantly on improving this technology. So not just programming and do virtual testing, that also is necessary, but to bring these vehicles into the traffic, and you see examples here on the display as well. Secondly, and that's something that should not be underrated, this showcasing is important to get people into contact with what the technology really can demonstrate. So what is possible, what is the status of technology you achieved already, and where are things you have to continue to work on. So that applies, funny enough, for our internal stakeholders within Bosch. We are a big company, and we are also applying for funds, for budgets internally, because there are a lot of great ideas engineers and people from business development have for other things where you could deploy your money to. So this showcasing fulfills the purpose of attracting new budgets from inside, and we are not relying that much on investors' money, but obviously there are a lot of other companies who use their demonstration fleet to attract investors' money. And when it comes then to showcase that, as Henriette just said, there are a couple of use cases that are interesting. So transport as a service, TaaS, MaaS, mobility as a service, as well as privately owned cars equipped with this technology. So like automated valet parking, that is something where you do not speak about fleet provision, but where you speak about technology that is equipped in your personal private car. So these are the things that came into my mind when looking at these pictures and selecting actually these pictures.
See if, yeah, okay. I'm then coming from the more freight side in the logistics operators, how to make use of this in a quite harsh environment where you have a business-to-business operation. Really, then this puts a lot of new challenges, and of course we have a technology push here. There's a lot of things that can be done, but we need now to understand what needs to be done, and we need to get involved with the end users in order to, and not showcase is good, but demonstration and then showing really benefit is even better. And really when we get to, and I put up a picture here of the port, a small port you see there, and it's, when you're talking to these people operating a port, then you really see the complexity. Okay, automated driving, you mean in the port of Rotterdam, mixed traffic in the port area, it's a big deal actually. So, and they are already operating automated vehicles since 20 years. So now they would come with, and so here it's a big challenge really to know the state of the art and also the needs from my customers and my customers, really, why should they invest in these solutions and what are the benefits? And of course, then we also relates also to the pictures. A lot of these trucks in our case then run also on highway. You see them occasionally on the Autobahn, for example, a few trucks running there. So, and then of course they are interacting with other vehicles. So we need to also engage in the highway case. We are actually also working in the High Drive project. I think the interaction between cars and trucks is very, very important. And also, but also linking back to the active safety systems and ADAS system, driver support systems, is also very important. We believe that the driver today is quite important. If you really study the use cases, what the driver really is doing, it's much more than just drive the truck. He takes care of the customs paper, he managed the toll fee collection, he talks to the gate entrance, there is something. So there is so much issues that the autonomous vehicle will have a very hard time to really sort out. So I think there are many good causes to look into. Okay.
Thank you very much. For this, and thank you all three for this introduction round. I would go on with the next three questions, but changing the order all the time. So next time, now Christian, you're the first, and then in the third round, Mats, and then we open the floor to questions to everybody. So Christian, what is, from your perspective, what are the barriers to scale up this level 4 vehicles, maybe on private cars as well as on the other use cases which we just discussed here? So what are the key barriers to really come to large-scale demonstrations for automated vehicles?
There is a lot of wisdom also in this room when it comes to the question, so why are we not any farther in the development and deployment of this technology? So it's a kind of repetition from conference to conference that this hype that we enjoyed had actually the second dip now. So the first dip, I believe, was end of last decade in the US. There was a kind of disappointment and the realization that the complexity has been underrated. And now we see all the ingredients for the second storm, that again, there is a kind of delay also from those players having been named also in the morning with the very deep pockets. And these top pockets are not that full anymore. They might be deep, but investors also realized, hey, there is a delay in scaling and rolling out. So what are reasons? From a helicopter view, it's in my eyes twofold. So one is that the software and hardware is not mature enough. So it's an engineering technical topic, but that's correlated to the topic that the available hardware specifically is much more expensive than anticipated and forecasted by, for example, McKinsey. So we were at Bosch also in deep discussions with McKinsey for quite a time and still are. And they repeated, hey, it's you do not anticipate the cost decrease and the scaling opportunities and economies of scale. So it's a little bit chicken egg problem that while you're waiting for the volumes, you cannot offer cheap piece prices. So it's really related to huge volumes. That's what the industry automotive is used to, so to count cars and manufacturing volume. And with these numbers discussed currently, it's extraordinarily difficult to justify these investments to decrease really the piece price. So that is one technical barrier, complexity of the technology and the prices. And of course, we have on top regulation that might be not that much of a barrier in the US, because there you can bring quite easily your vehicles to a type approval or get an allowance to drive around. While in Europe you have first steps that we enjoyed as automotive industry. Yes, on the one side, but when it comes to harmonization cross-country, then there is still a lot of work to do really. And once more, it's economies of scale we are after. We really need to provide affordable technology, and that comes only via a harmonized regulation that allows to have one common and standard solution. We love diversity in Europe, that makes us strong, but when it comes to legislation and rule making, less is more.
Thank you very much. Well, I think this is opening up a big discussion, and please save your questions, or if you have really an urgent question, please raise your hand. We can also switch in between, so feel free to contribute. Mats, I think what we just heard is really one of the key discussions which we have, but it can also be related to the projects which have been already concluded, and we are having new projects also in your area of logistics and trucks and buses coming up. So what is from your perspective, what are the necessary results from the projects, and how can they taken into consideration also when we talk about this aim of large-scale demonstration?
It's kind of just to do this state of the art. Where are we today? The technology, it's maturing all the time. And we know that a lot of development is ongoing in confined areas. Within ports, within terminals, mining and quarries and sites. It's important for us. So I think we really to learn what's happening, where are we today. So I think this is, and also study the ongoing projects and bring that in. And also it's all the different clusters, technology, but also the regulation, the regulatory effect. The trucking business is heavily regulated. So it's, you have, if you want to do anything, then the length, the weight, or the driver time, how many wheels should you have, and what is the length of the, I mean, it's EMS 1, EMS 2. So there is so much, and you consider then also, we're lucky now, we have at least one, we have several projects, but one in particular, the Modi project starting up now, and I think this is, we can actually focus on the corridor from transporting goods from Rotterdam all the way through the network, through Hamburg to Gothenburg and up to Oslo. So we have border crossings, we have ferry crossings, we have how to transfer between different authorities, and so you can actually start kind of paving the way, trying to understand what are we trying to solve, and then kind of take first step, and I think in order towards later on a big, larger scale demonstration. But we also need, in this project, we also study, of course, the highly automated level 4 type of vehicles, but also CITS. And I think this is underutilized, really. We cannot forget what we have done the last, I've been working on that for, I don't dare to say really. The first test I did in 1990 in Torino, we tested CITS. So in the Prometheus project, so we still, but this technology is mature, but we need what are the services? So we try to see how can we utilize these services, not only for the driver, but also for the future, also the automated vehicle. So really the services and the spectrum also to level 2 type of vehicles in order to really improve the working situation. Actually to study how is shipment is done this every day, this route. So just ask the operators, where are your pain points? And they can give you a list. And so this can solve this for us, and you are heroes. So I think we need to go back to the drawing board and to see how can we take this stepwise.
Thanks a lot. I think this is a question which is very common also to public transport, because you are in the same position of operating big fleet. And also standardization between logistics providers or between cities is the same issue. Also regulatory affairs are very close to each other, even if the the product itself is completely different. So I think we have this very nice structure of talking about big fleet in mobility and transport, but also on private cars. And so coming back to the big fleet, and I would ask you in this case the same question: what are the necessary results from from previous projects, and what are for you the hot topics in this area?
So we had so many learnings from previous projects, and I'm thinking, when I'm in this shared mobility area, I'm thinking specifically of projects like Avenue or the show project, and now we have the Ultimo that is starting. And what I really liked in this project is the fact, and of course it goes together with this large-scale demonstration, is really to have vehicles on the ground. And now we are moving more and more towards really answering a travel demand, like real service. So you mentioned services, Mats, and I think we need to go more and more towards this direction. And we kind of, and in show it was already the case, where we kind of left behind the idea of having short demonstration during an exhibition, during like a very very short term to get people a bit familiar with the technology. We were really integrating the vehicle into something real, being the public transport services with all the constraints that they have, all the issue that they have also with the drivers, with the regulation very very much, definitely. And I would like to see definitely more integration of the vehicle. So we are less interested into vehicle technologies as such, I would say, but we need robust vehicles. That we need fleets. Indeed, we need to have fleets. So when we had in the show project, we had some issue. You have all heard about Navia. What happened to Navia? We had other issue. Sometimes we had to replace some shuttles in the project, and we were scouting in Europe who can provide us shuttles, and we were really interviewing all the shuttle providers existing in Europe. And I was asking, can you provide 10 shuttles next week? Or can you provide 50 shuttles in 3 months? And this is very rare. We don't have this. And I'm not speaking of 100. It was still kind of reasonable numbers. So I would say, and it goes in the direction what Christian also was mentioning, we need really to have more vehicles, because once we have more vehicles, we will be able really to have to answer real travel demand. Still, it was possible, as I mentioned, we have few sites in the project where it was a real a demand was there, and people, since we have the demonstration in the project over a long time, it was possible for the people to kind of get familiar with the technology, and after a while they were just using the services in real life, in their everyday life, which I think it's a sign of success. And I think it's where it should come more integration in everyday life of the person, of the people using public transport every day, and also more integration of all the stakeholders. So that will be for me a hot topic for the next call to come, to be sure that you have a variety of stakeholders on board, the manufacturers, that you have the operators, that you have authorities, cities, because they have all very different perspectives, needs, and limitations in terms of budget and so on. So that's the way I see a consortium in the future, to have really this set of consortium. And of course, on top of that, having academic partner pushing the technologies a bit further, so that, of course, we want to do research and apply research and so on. So this combination and this integration of system together. There is more, but I will maybe stop there. For me, this integration will be very, very important.
Thanks very much, Henriette. And that leads me already to the core question, I would say, and I'd ask all the three of you again in the next round, before we open up the floor. What is really the key success factor, or what are key performance indicators which we would like to apply when we have then started or even finished in the 2030s our large-scale demonstration projects? So what is the success which we can provide? I think and maybe I start already with giving a bit of an answer and to structure the discussion a bit in this direction, because we are knowing that there's no scale up of level 4 in mixed traffic in all roads yet to be seen on the horizon. This is not yet there. We are seeing level 4 on parking systems now coming up this and next year from some OEMs and suppliers, and also park garage providers, service providers. We are seeing level 3 on highways coming up, and we are seeing a bunch of level 2 additional value opportunities also for public transport and for truck providers and so on. So this is the reality, and now it's really the key question: how far will technology be in 2 or 3 years, which can be overseen from all our experts here in the room, I think, to plan the right large-scale demonstrations. And then I come back to what you just said with integrating all necessary partners for successful large-scale demonstrations, which is not only universities, which are absolutely necessary, but also the industry, but also the local, regional, national, and European bodies which are necessary for that. So on the truck side, what is your specific view, Mats, on how to define a future successful large-scale demonstration?
Well, yeah, I mean, my manager used to ask, did you sell any trucks? That's the, I mean, that's what we are living of. I mean, that's, I mean, you have Niklas here on the panel as well earlier today. But I think when we actually see the pickup from the users, that they actually, when you actually see it really happens. And usually that's the moment when you are pushed out of the room as a researcher. You are not needed anymore. Then you know that you have succeeded. Because that's quite important, really. You really need to see that it's actually someone picks it up. So I think this, and I think also the persistence. I think the kind of corridor that we have kind of started now in Modi, it's very important to. We are here. We will continue working on this. We leverage on earlier experience, and we intend to stay. We intend to make this happen. And not give up, really, because it's a lot of innovation, but it's a lot of sweat as well. You need to continue to push. So I think that's my take on this. We will succeed, but when everything is ready. So I think, and also this corridor, and which affects all the different stages here, from the confined area to the kind of restricted roads, to urban roads, to rural roads, to highways, to roadworks, to port and harbor. There are so many things that a corridor can actually demonstrate, and you can show the different aspects what you can do. Yeah.
Thank you. And I'd like to even push further in the direction of we are also not only talking about CCAM. We are having a quite successful call, as I heard. It's not yet granted projects from the joint topic with the cities mission together with 2.0. And I think it's also a good plan to introduce for the large-scale demonstrations also joint initiatives with 2.0. And also we discussed this, or I discussed this morning about the corridor idea, even bigger than Modi all over Europe. So this kind of focusing on 2.0 and CCAM projects in cities and on corridors. I think this is really a very important idea to follow. And how would this look like in public transport?
Yes, that's this call was really, I think, an important step to have this, to integrate the topic of electrification in the cities. And I'm very happy that we had a session about cities today. Something I can add on everything that you have listed is for the topic of mobility hubs. I think that will be a hot topic more and more, and this idea of really mobility as a service, combination of different mobility services, And not doing automation for the sake of automation, but as integrated within a mobility system of having micro-mobility in place and logistic also for like delivery within the city. Because this is true that here in the picture it looks like kind of segmented, but there are really connection for all this for these different use cases of using the vehicles for different purposes. So I think this will come more and more, and should come more and more in the future, to look at more the big pictures and not too much in silo, definitely. But if I may jump also on something you mentioned regarding the KPIs and how to measure the success of the project, of what have been done before. And actually this morning there was a delegation from the European Commission having a look at the vehicles in front of the Bellarmont. So I'm doing my advertisement now for the vehicles that are over there. If they will be there this evening probably still, and tomorrow have a look. And the question, exactly this question has been asked to me: how will I consider as coordinator of the show project that the project is a success? And for me is if the services are still in place after the project. If we manage always to have something like that, that is really leveraging, that will be great. But the difficulty, and I'm always very concerned about that, for example, the fact that the Ultimo project started, although show was not finished, and there is kind of this overlap between projects. It can be good because some partners are working in the different projects and transferability can be ensured. But sometimes I have the impression it's a lot, and I'm wondering if we should not sometimes a bit pause and think about our learning, what have we learned, and make sure that we disseminate properly our learnings, our findings. The CAD knowledge base is, for example, should be used more and more and more. So I'm really encouraging as well. I'm not a good student because myself I'm not putting all the data I should on the knowledge base, but that we need more tools like that enables the transferability between projects and not starting again from scratch every time. So that's something we try to do also at UITP, because we have many members from public transport operators and authorities that are still not convinced yet by the technology, or they don't really see how it fits in their planning. Some of them, many of the UITP members are really much focused on electrification. That, for them, the hot topic that they have to prioritize, no choice. So automation is kind of something they see a bit like for later. But from our side, of course, is we don't want this topic, and that's why I'm very happy to be in this CCAM partnership, to be part of it. From our point of view, we don't want all this discussion to be led only by automotive manufacturers. I'm sorry, Amin, to tell you that. So we need the Public Transport Authority and operators to be on board as well, and make them clear what are the potential for the technology, what are the benefits that they could have, and why they should join the CCAM partnerships, by the way, starting with that, and also answer more and more the calls and seeing how the technology can be useful. But for that, we need to have these best practices coming from projects, and I think we are all putting a lot of effort into that, but more and more is needed, and maybe not rushing too much into too many projects, but pause, reflect, and see how we can transfer our learnings.
I'd like to agree to I think everything you said. That maybe not looking only at the KPI, so key performance indicators in terms of kilometers driven or people carried in a certain period of time. I think it's wise really looking at the allocation of scarce budget to look at the promising use cases and where you also find prerequisites for success. So success factors in the case of large-scale demonstration for me is having the right partners at the table supporting a project. And we know in an urban context you would need really a city that is advanced and that is willing to provide infrastructure, able and willing to provide the appropriate infrastructure. You would have strong partners on the industrial side, an OEM at the table as well, and infrastructure provider. So there are some ingredients that you need to cook the soup, and it's also good when you are not totally mature as a cook to start with a simple soup. So don't go for the really refined, very advanced use cases, but do it step by step, incrementally. And don't overload the project with too high expectations. So that's something we can do in Europe, maybe better as others, that we go hand in hand, step by step, but consistently in one direction and straight. Not too much zigzag. Maybe you cannot prevent that totally, but then look at the use cases where you are able to establish or foresee also a business case. So it's not la pour la. It's not for the sake of showing something with the budget being provided, but look for something that you can continue also when the budget has been used up, and it carries itself by nature, by revenues and profits coming in, and then you're on good track, I believe.
Fantastic. I think you already took over my third question to you, so all good. And as we only have a few minutes left in this first half of this session, I'll open the floor to the audience, and there's the first question.
Thank you. Endre Angelvik, you might have heard me earlier today. I have to chime in on this. 3 points. One, I don't agree with your perspective on when things is going to happen, but that shouldn't really be surprising given what I said. 2, advice to the strategy for the CCAM partnership. Make sure it delivers on the sustainability and green trajectory. And for that, you need a different kind of urgency than maybe sometime in 2035, because by then we're going to be either sunburned or out of water. Sort of tabloids a bit, yes. On the practicalities on corridors and public transit or people transportation versus goods, people transportation is a very local thing. Almost half of the journeys that people do every day is less than 10 kilometers. That doesn't need any kind of corridor. It doesn't need any border-spanning stuff. It doesn't even pass regional borders. If you look at the actual movement people does, it's very local. So have a look at that when you actually design how you move forward. Goods transportation, I can see very different perspectives and needs and flows. But if it's going to create impact, you need to hit where it is going to have impact, where you're going to influence a lot of what's happening. And if the EU level deals with border crossing stuff on an EU level, and most of the problem is local within the city, which is 2 levels or 3 levels down even, how do you make those things connect to actually deliver on the sustainability agenda? So those would be my inputs to the CCAM strategy discussions moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As a general answer, I may also, as a moderator, take the floor a bit. I fully agree, and I also feel the urgency, I can say, and it's really urgent to solve the issues of the global warming, absolutely. No question on that. Well, I think caring about trucks and corridors and international makes a lot of sense, and it's a complete different story. I fully agree to public transport or the typical journeys of, we will see in the breakout session in the next round of breakout sessions tomorrow, also a deeper discussion on use cases, and this journey discussion is presented there as well very deeply. So fully agree. You're completely right. But then I'd like to give the floor also to you.
Thank you very much, Andre, for your comment. And I think we aligned, and that's also the mindset, kind of course, of public transport to provide like an alternative to private cars in the city, to have also the topic of having more person per vehicle to be more efficient, and so on. And adding on the topic of environmental impacts and what is really meaningful to do to be sure that we are on a positive way. I see a lot of potential as well with use cases that you may think these little shuttles don't drive so fast and so on, but there are still very, very interesting use cases that could be scaled up if we go towards automated ride-hailing services, like there is in San Francisco, for example, to also address the topic of accessibility. And I think it goes all hand in hand, because people who have cars, private cars now, mostly is also because they live too far away from the first public transport metro, like the first metro or mass transit. And by deploying this type of services, we are also, if it is nicely integrated, enabling better, like positive environmental impact, but also like better accessibility and so on, which I think that's a topic that we should have more and more in the back of our mind when we design our services around automated mobility, shared automated mobility.
Any other comment to this question or any other question from the audience? Well, if not, then I would say we do a last round of really making the spot. What is your key priority for a future large-scale demonstration? Very short, very blunt, very clear. Who wants to start? Well, I'll start. I'll start. You have time to think about it. My first priority, and you mentioned it anyway in show. I'd like to see the large-scale demonstration keeping core elements of the large-scale demonstration in the place where it happened for the future in a, let's say, serious deployment.
Yeah, maybe to add, I repeat myself, select the right use case with strong partners being able to succeed and to get something done. So it is the purpose to show something and demonstrate maturity in use cases that motivates people to continue, and we need many people, many supporters to mature from one use case to the other. So keep the focus to success.
Yeah, and also this link to sustainability that was mentioned. I mean, we need to work on this. We need to really prove that we actually emit less CO2. We utilize the resources in a better way, or the existing. And this is kind of something we need to demonstrate to our customers. They will actually, who will invest in this technology.
And from my side, I would say, I said already quite, I think you got my point from what I said before already, but if we could see more dialogue between public operators and private, I think that would be something very, very nice to have more in the future, more collaboration, and also together working like that these players, the private players, but also the public, work together towards harmonized regulation in Europe. I think that would be very, very helpful for everybody.
Thank you very much. And with this, I thank you also for this panel. And you will not find what we discussed here in words in the SRIA update, but you will find a lot of hints in the SRIA text in the clusters, representing here mainly cluster 1 and 2, so the large-scale demonstrations and the vehicle technologies, but also cluster 4, integrating the vehicle into CCAM. and we will come to a second panel with other areas which are on the same importance to reach our targets. So thank you again, and Margriet, Gerion, and Stefan. So happy to have you here. Margriet is leading the Cluster 5 on key enabling technologies. She is very experienced in this field. We work together from the beginning of the CCAM platform, also in the air truck working group already. So happy to have you here. Gerion is, I would say, our multi-tool. He's really into so many things, Cluster 5, Cluster 2, and really a lot of things going on with VDE, IVDE, IT from Gerion. So happy to have you here. And Stefan is kind of the co-host of this whole conference here, because he's leading the FAME project and leading Cluster 7, which is coordination of CCAM. So happy to have you here. And with this, I would like to show a picture which is very good explaining what we are wanting to discuss now. So we did it the other way around. In the first round, we explained what will we aim for. And in this picture, which is a bit not sharp, but okay. I think you can read it, the picture of the CCAM partnership. This is the logo of the partnership with the 7 clusters, which I mentioned already. And around it, you see all the different corporations which we will see, or which we see and which we experience in our CCAM work here. So it goes from the left, enabling technologies, to innovation and deployment, which we mentioned already in the first panel. And we see not only EU partnerships, but also other EU programs, which were discussed today heavily with CEF, to name the most important ones, and even international cooperation. So this is the spectrum we want to discuss in this second panel. And I'd like to do the same again with the first round of questions to all the 3 of you. What is your key topic in this area of cooperations?
Thank you, Armin. It's a good question, and I find it, on the other hand, also a very difficult question. And I'll tell you why. As you can see in the picture, Cluster 5 is on the left side of the CCAM partnership, and it's also, one could say, logically linked to the partnerships on the left side of the picture. And I think that's also the role of this Cluster 5 on key enabling technologies, to build on the dialogue between us and other partnerships on how can we pick up new technologies, key enabling technologies like AI, cybersecurity, but also the photonics and other topics. How can we bring them into CCAM? How can we contextualize them? I think that's really very important. But for me, there is another step that we have to take as Cluster 5, but also as partnership, because at the end of the day, it's not about technology, it's about the implementation. So also from this key enabling technologies cluster, we have to make the step more to the other side of the picture. We have to focus on the implementation, on the deployment, the large-scale demonstrations. That's where it all leads towards to. And it also leads to the bigger picture. And I think that's, for me, a hidden objective of the key enabling technologies is we link CCAM to the overall mobility system and include, for instance, also on the background, energy optimization of the overall mobility system and beyond. So connected to everything at the end of the day, I would say.
I believe the important thing that we try to put into this picture is the push and pull links between enabling technologies partnerships and applications partnerships. Besides all the links that exist a bit on the same at the same level, like CCAM 2.0 was mentioned before, for creating jointly solutions, for example, in the city's mission. But if you ask me, I would say the part on the left, like Margriet has mentioned, that is probably the most exciting one. Because what we here try to describe is where in the framework of European partnerships do we find those partners that can deliver new technologies and new solutions that we can build upon in the CCAM partnership, but also the other way around. What are those partners that we can confront or that we can ask to help us with developing solutions by providing the necessary technologies? Just got dark, but over there it doesn't. Okay, just to give you an example here, you see a couple of these partnerships mentioned on the left side, and there are definitely more. Take the KDT, Key Digital Technologies partnership that is turning into the CHIPS, a joint undertaking very soon as part of the European CHIPS Act. Here we have the partnership that's delivering software and hardware components that are that enable certain functionality in environment perception, in sensing and understanding a situation on the road, also in combination with artificial intelligence out of the ADR partnership, for example. And at the same time, those are the partnerships through which we can go and say, look, we have a certain situation in CCAM. We want to understand what intentions people that we see on the road may have, whether they cross the road, whether they make left or right turns in front of our automated car. Help us with this. And this relationship is very well established already. Just to give you one very exciting example, I think, is the software-defined vehicle initiative out of the KDT joint undertaking, which, other than the name suggests, will cover software and hardware development of future cars, so the decoupling of software and hardware components, like we know it from mobile devices, for example, or computers, and turn this into something that we can use in the CCAM partnership in order to update and upgrade functionalities quickly and in order to shorten innovation cycles. And this is something where the link is not just a theoretical link, but it has been established very well, and where the cooperation is there every day between the partnerships in order to well align. And we see this also reflected in the draft of the SRIA of the CCAM partnership.
Yes, so I was always very happy to see that the coordination cluster is really the last layer, also the one encompassing everything, and now I see that there's a green line still outside around it, but yeah, it's going out of the coordination, and I think really the role of the coordination cluster here is to bring the tools to the partnership to help in aligning research and innovation in Europe. And for that, indeed, so the things that I mentioned here, we have the link with the member states programs. So of course, we are working with the different projects from the partnerships to help them share their experiences, share their lessons learned. We already mentioned the knowledge base that was built out of the projects of coordination, which is this nice logo, the connected automated driving.eu, between the Commission and the CCAM logo here. So there, of course, we have access to the European funded program, but the difficulty is to get access to everything that is happening at national level, city level, regional level, and that's where we need this interaction with different member states initiatives, so in particular the member states representative groups from the CCAM partnership, so there will be a transversal session on that. And then we have as well to make the link to the international programs. It's extremely important to learn from the activities in the different regions. So there are sometimes different policy contexts, different situations where there are successful implementations, and we can learn from that, even if it doesn't necessarily apply, but hopefully it can help as well at some point to have aligned policies or aligned work on this.
Thank you very much. I think already a very good overview, and looking at this picture again, there are so many things which you can see here, and so many things to be discussed, but we need to focus on a few things. The time is limited. So I'll start the second round with you, Garion. And I'd like to ask you a bit more in detail. I would say maybe the cities mission is really one of the key topics. It's down there. It's really something which we talked about it also with the joint call in the previous discussion. So what do you think about this information?
This is a very exciting development that we had during the last year, I would say, and that led to the joint call that was mentioned already earlier today, and that obviously led to a couple of project proposals as far as we understood from this morning. So the city mission is one of the missions of the Horizon Europe, as you know. It's the one that's looking into creating as a target, as a target-driven mission. Yeah, it has a very clear and very strong target: 100 smart and climate-neutral cities by 2030. And as you know, there's many cities already that are following that ambition in Europe and that have been pre-selected to that. The call is actually open to any cities that feel they can contribute to it. It's a very exciting instrument. It's new in Horizon Europe, and building a bridge from the CCAM partnership to the cities mission was a very exciting exercise, not just for the CCAM partnership, but also for the 2.0 partnership, because it is a framework that has this very clear target, but at the same time it requires, it needs technology, it needs solutions in order to achieve those targets. And it is not just doing that, but it's also aiming at upscaling those solutions in a way that it really has impact. Yeah, therefore, it is one of those connections of the CCAM partnership and 2.0 partnerships to clearly align on joint objectives. And that was a very exciting process, as said before, and it led to a call which actually is combining everything. So I actually took a note here because it's quite lengthy. So co-designed smart systems and services for user-centric shared zero-emission mobility for people and goods in urban areas. If you feel you can contribute, you were invited to do so. But what it also does not do, and this is also important, I think, for the CCAM and 2.0 partnerships, it is not developing technology by itself. It is about applying technology and using technology. Sometimes it was said also from the side of the Commission, to making little tweaks on the technology in order to prepare it for this upscaling. Yeah? And I think that's quite smart. I'm really curious to see which projects will come out of this. It required a lot of commitment, not just from the technology sides, but also from the cities involved, because this is like a multi-government approach that's needed here. And the question here is, if we bring in technologies from the 2.0 and CCAM partnerships, what do we get in return? We had to discuss a lot with European Commission and the managers of the city mission here. And actually what we are getting back is a fast track to testing solutions for a fast deployment and for accelerated innovation. I think that's very exciting in the context that we just had in the previous panel on the large-scale demonstrations. So a very exciting thing.
Thank you very much for this insight into this cooperation. Coming to another aspect which is not so much mentioned on this picture, but I think is key, and it's obvious that we need to do it because it's about your project, Stefan Fame. And sorry, I forgot to introduce you with also your company. You're from Artico ITS Europe. So naturally, you are very much linked also to other projects and to the projects of CCAM. And what do you think? What is, from your perspective, the mechanisms which you have in Cluster 7 in Fame to engage stakeholder enablers for R&I projects consultation?
Yeah, so indeed we have, I mean, as Cluster coordination cluster, we are supporting the partnership with this alignment with several what we call multiplier instruments. So one of them is the knowledge base that I already mentioned, which is meant to be the one-stop shop where we put all the information about activities in Europe, not only results from research projects, but as well location of test sites and what are the different use cases and different topics that are being tested. And then another very important part is the harmonization, so common methodologies. So it was mentioned already in the previous panel that harmonization is essential. So we need at the end to be able to compare the results from these different projects. So that's why we are developing now a common evaluation methodology and a common framework for testing for large-scale demonstrations. And of course, the ideal situation would be that all the new projects use this methodology, not only the CCAM partnership project, but as well national projects, ideally, because we want to make sure that results are comparable at the end of the projects and that we can also build on different results so that in the end we get the wider pictures of the impacts of these different solutions that are being developed. So, and then indeed we are having these networking tools and events. So like you said, we contribute to the organization of the EUCAD conference, but as well to workshops, as well with the international community. So we had several workshops here that are really meant to support the work of the partnership to identify future research and innovation priorities for the work programs.
And I'd like to add here also what I mentioned already this morning, and what also Rosalinde mentioned in her opening. It is more about these projects are really feeling being a part of a bigger picture. This is really the added value of the partnership, and we were very surprised when we firstly had a multi-cluster meeting, as we call it, to coordinate between all the clusters and to get input from all the members and even beyond members. In this meeting, we invited the first projects to start in 2022. And all of them were appearing and all of them were happy to contribute and to show their first ideas of their projects. And so we are having usually the road transport research conference every year where the results of the projects are presented. So I can't remember of any activity where projects have already presented, even if they don't have results yet. So it's really a big difference in how do projects act in this framework of the CCAM partnership. I think this is a big thing. Coming back to you, Margaret, I would like to ask you, in this framework, how would you like to move from this overview and having now these very concrete projects and work in the CCAM partnership, when it comes to the left wing again, the key enabling technologies, how really to make it happen?
I think an important thing is that you see that many of these partnerships, they needed some time to get to maturity a bit more. And we are getting there. That really helps in setting up more advanced dialogues to discuss where can we truly cooperate, where can we use each other's results and across, come to, for instance, the joint topic on missions, as was already presented also by Gerian. I think it's important that we have that dialogue, that we really find each other. And I think also the instruments, Stefan, that you mentioned, from the FAME project and from Arcade and Carter before, they're really instrumental to make that happen, to learn to find each other and to make it more specific. I think I said the joint topic is a good example. But also yesterday, we added one day to our EUCAD conference week here in Brussels, having a satellite event together with the ADRA community and the BDVA, the Big Data Value Association, as one of its firm pillars, to discuss what actually can we do together and how can we use that in updating our strategic research and innovation agenda for the next period. So really go beyond intentions and to pinpoint some of the things that we specifically can pick up.
And I can add here as well, because I was there. It was small but very a good event, because if you learn to know people from other communities, it's already the first step to cooperation. Very much thanks for this initiative. So for this moment, I would like to open the floor to the audience who has a question to my panelists or to me. So who wants to be first? Well, if not, then I first start continuing, and please think about your questions you may have. Having all these areas of cooperation, we didn't touch yet deeply. You mentioned it a bit, Stefan, the international cooperation. So can you give us a bit more insights what we are doing there?
Yeah, indeed. One of the main activities we have so far is the trilateral cooperation on automated road transport between Europe, Japan, and the US. So there we had, in particular, some working groups were dealing with some harmonized approaches, like on impact assessment, on human factors, and also on roadworthiness testing, where there have been some common activities. And for me, this is really the best level of cooperation, when you really reach a level where we are working together on a common methodology. So there is a trilateral or international impact assessment framework that is existing today, and that is being used actually across the 3 regions. Otherwise, we have also lower levels already. Information exchange is already very valuable. So yesterday, also in the morning, in addition to the other workshops, we had one international cooperation workshop where 9 countries presented their strategies and as well their activities on CCAM. And it was extremely interesting to see what is happening, and that in the end we have all common challenges. So we didn't have time to go deeper in the discussions, but we all agreed that we need to continue this dialogue, and that's what we want to do as well through these Cluster 7 actions and so on, to extend the international cooperation, bring in really more of the stakeholders and exchange on best practice across the world.
There a comment, or?
If I may. I think that's a very exciting topic, and indeed that workshop was really worthwhile, and seeing all these different experiences and also approaches at different levels of innovation, of course, and with different ambitions and also different budget sizes and so on behind. This is always very worthwhile, and I think it was a very good dialogue. The matter of international collaboration in general in road transportation is something that we've looked into through the Future Horizon project recently a bit more systematically. And there's a couple of people here in the room, even from abroad, that we interviewed for this in order to get a complete picture. And I think it's really exciting and to see how the different approaches also differ around the world. We actually looked into US, China, Korea, Japan. Some colleagues from my team have really done a good job on that and trying to bring some systematic into it. What we learned from it is that we need to be, we are in a phase now where we should be careful not to be naive in international collaboration. So we always need to consider a bit, maybe in view of this paradigm of open strategic autonomy or so, where can we learn? Where can we find friends and colleagues around the world that can help us and that have a joint understanding also with us in order to drive CCAM into the right direction, but also be careful once in a while where there may be risks. I mean, we are living in a democracy. We are living in a world where we're sharing values, but not everybody around the world is sharing the same values, and I think that's important. We try to derive for this topic of CCAM a couple of themes where we see great potential for collaboration, also in view of particular countries, and also where we need to be a bit careful. And this is all taken into account for the update of the SRIA. And you find it there, you can read it there. So just to give you a few examples, of course we can learn from the US the market-driven approach that Jane Leppin introduced today. of course, when talking to people in Japan, we can learn a lot about the role of CCAM for the societal transformation, Society 5.0 and all these things. So it's super exciting. Of course, when looking into China, we can learn a lot about their approaches on intelligent connected vehicles, or looking to colleagues and we're talking to colleagues in Korea. They have a lot of experience with remote operations, for example. So there's a lot of examples. But there's also other topics where we need to be a bit more careful. Yeah? About global standardization, for example. Who is driving that with which interest? Market dominance by IT sector. Well, we are a bit weak on that in Europe. Or competition with other sectors that may enter into also the road transport automotive industry domain that is behind this as something that of course we want to promote as well. Say from the robotics sector, this is something we always want. So having a little bit of a differentiated approach here, I think is worthwhile, and that's something we can learn from that collaboration. And as I said, in the chapter in the STREA where we talk about the international collaboration, you see these examples, and that there's definitely more. There's more of an analysis behind that that you can find there.
If I may also add one aspect which is also, I think, a really achievement of the CCAM partnership, and the audience is too big, so I don't see if Teresa is still there. Yeah, Teresa. Teresa is leading the States Representative Group, so she's responsible to really help us on doing the perfect work together with the States Representative Group. Leading was the wrong word, but being the coordinator for really getting a flow into the row of States Representative Groups meetings. We are having now established, really following the EU presidency, every half year a States Representative Group meeting, or I could even say workshop, also with some links to higher levels of management. And we are now in the nice situation that the representatives from the next presidency countries are already planning even further in advance the workshops. So we are having, together with Hamid, the workshop in Gothenburg already next week, right? Over next week? In 2 weeks? Yeah. And the plan for Spain is already established, and also we are talking about the overnext in Belgium. So it's really a big push also from the States to contribute and to pave the way for what we discussed in the first part of this panel for large-scale demonstrations. So we are looking very much into harmonization of regulations for testing vehicles, but also other framework conditions which are very much related to the national member states in the area of CCAM. So I'm very happy to have this process established now, together with strong support from the Commission, but also with the activities and engagement of the member states. So thank you very much on that. But coming to a next question to you, Margrethe. What would you really expect in the coming 3 years and also for the projects on cooperations, mainly? Sorry, looking again to the key enabling technologies.
I think it refers also a bit to my answer in the previous question, and I think it's important to stress that, to really make things more specific, to think more and work more together, not only on defining those topics, but on which are the impacts that we are really going to make on our CCAM, on our mobility system overall. And I think several of the key enabling technologies are very suitable to deliver impacts on secure, energy efficient, robust mobility system. For instance, AI. I'm getting a bit hesitant these days to talk about AI, I have to admit. We won't go too much into that discussion, but I think AI can be really at its very best in complex situations where you have many actors, many information, many objectives that you want to optimize towards. So it's really good to use instruments like that. As long as you do that in collaboration, make sure that your technologies are user-centric, are explainable and trustworthy. And I think in the collaboration with the other partnerships, really essential that we jointly make an impact towards the digital and green transition of the mobility system. It's not an objective or an aim that we can do next year, but for me that's the picture on the longer term from the key enabling technologies towards the collaboration with other partnerships.
Thank you very much. I fully agree. With this, I'd like to also come to a final round of questions to all of you. And maybe first to all of you again. Does anybody have a question to the... Please.
Maybe just one comment, actually. You explained very well how dependent...
A bit louder, please.
Okay, I'll try to go closer. More a comment maybe or recommendation. Let's try. You said enabling technology. You pointed out very much how dependent CCAM is from that technologies, from to get it from there. And I would like just to give you one point of view from KDT, because I'm also very active there. I would maybe recommend in KDT, CCAM is not very visible at all, let's say. In KDT, we know the challenges that come from CCAM, but CCAM is not visible, for instance, in when it comes to the communities there. So there are also conferences like this here in CCAM. There are conferences in KDT, but CCAM does not show up there. It could help that CCAM is also visible there with the project, with the results that has been gathered with the technologies that are available, and giving back actually, okay, what are the new demands, or what could be made better. So it's rather a comment. Actually, I cannot say about the other technologies and platforms, but maybe that just as a comment.
It's a very worthwhile comment, I think, and I believe there will be opportunities for doing that in the future. Think of a joint roadmap process, for example, that probably will fit into the context of the software-defined vehicle initiative. I think that's something we probably will be able to work on.
It's not about the roadmap. I think that's working good, but rather about, because in the roadmap there are only a few people involved, but the whole community is on conferences, for instance. And I think there is much more opportunities in this conferences. If CCAM would show up in the what is the main the FX conference, for instance.
Well, I had a presentation there.
We are there once in a while, but of course it can be strengthened, I think.
I fully agree, but this is always the problem, that the world is so complex, and if you look at all the branches and all the technologies and you want to be everywhere, then, well, what else do you do? But no, but you're right, I fully agree, and we will definitely seek for more outreach. Thanks for the comment.
Hello, my name is Jessica Guccioni. I'm with the UK government in the Centre for Connected Autonomous Vehicles. One of the challenges that we have found is the lessons learned aspect that you've emphasized. We kind of don't want to be starting from scratch, but then there's such an emphasis on success and building confidence in the sector. So I've been privy to information where some projects don't actually manage to deliver on what they wanted, but then they repackage it or they'll reframe the aspect. And I feel that there is, as we all know from our own lives, we learn a lot from the things that don't go well. But then also if you're looking for investors, you want to show strength, you want to build build it in. And you also don't want to help your competitors in some way, because like you've hard-earned that lesson, and you kind of want to keep it. And I'm just curious from your point of view, how we can better get that information into the system for regulators, but also for other companies, so we can actually advance together more. Thank you.
Yeah, indeed, it's a challenge that we discussed as well. We had a workshop in March on this to see how we can improve as well the knowledge base and the collection of information. And indeed, this topic was brought up. So because we are collecting lessons learned, but mainly, generally, it's good lessons or best practices. But we also want to learn from failures. We want to avoid to repeat them. And as you say, indeed, I mean, at least also at the level of research projects, it's very rare that they are sharing these failures, because it's also they have to report positive outcomes as well as part of their publications. And so I wouldn't say we have really the ideal solution here, but we tried to have common workshops with them to try to and I've seen that at least when there are workshops at least in a closed environment, then the project coordinators were very happy to have this discussion, because then they were all really hearing and very eager to hear how the others solved a specific issue. So I think we can start by that, at least by not only even sharing them publicly, but maybe having smaller workshops, a bit like we try to organize with the different projects. And then slowly, we can bring it into a positive side. Yeah.
I think that's already very, very helpful. And recently I came across another example that may be helpful, and we can discuss if we want to pick it up. What I've seen in the Dutch AI Coalition, they have their annual conference and they have a competition for the biggest AI failure you made this year. And it sounds funny, and it really is funny, and it shows that, okay, if you're able to laugh and to show your own failures, discuss them with the audience, it's really very helpful. You can learn a lot from that. So maybe at some point we manage to do something like that as well.
Very good, I like the idea.
As long as we are still talking about like little research projects, failures are of less impact. So they are less of a problem, I would say. But the closer we turn to the right of this picture, where it says innovation and deployment, the more careful I think we need to be. We have not yet talked about it today, but this is indeed something that I believe in the CCAM partnership we need to take more care of, the closer we also get to the large-scale demonstrations, because the question then is, and what's after? So how large is large scale, and what is after large scale? Because in the end of the day, of course, we want deployment. We want to have systems that we can use everywhere. And then, of course, you mentioned regulation, for example, is playing a very important role. So you see a lot of programs mentioned here on the right side, and we have not yet gone through all of them with this perspective. But I believe it's super important. There's opportunities to link into, think of CEF, which was Connecting Europe facility, which was mentioned before. Think of EIC, the programs for the support and scale up of startup companies. I mentioned standardization before. It's not saying we shouldn't do standardization globally, but actually we should, of course, do with our friends and partners around the world in order to make sure we are avoiding failures and talk about the same things. And think of even other programs that go far beyond research, like the regional development funds and the European urban initiative and things like that. So I believe there's many opportunities to serve on that part for deployment and innovation, something we need to do at some point. Not yet at this 3R update, but but thank you for the question. It's making clear that there's more failure risks to come that we need to be aware of and anticipate.
Thank you, and I think these were already very nice, famous last word. Even if you want to have some famous last words, please then take the floor. But I think for the moment we are just in time. And I'd only like to make a small advertisement for tomorrow's breakout sessions, where we will dig deeper into also the clusters we have not yet mentioned and which also provide updates of the SRIA. And again, I'd like to address to you the contribution possibility to the SRIA update. We have been working on that for half a year now, and we are in the way of finalizing the text. So the plan is that we will have the final draft for further discussions on a more, I wouldn't say political, but on the Commission's level before summer break. So it would be now the opportunity to contribute. Please download the document. It's very easily structured. You only see the blue areas which are adapted and the black ones are not adapted. So you can easily look into only a few pages reading and make your comments and send them as mentioned to Marjena. And we will be happy to discuss with you your contributions. And in the breakout sessions of tomorrow, we will have a deeper dive into technology, societal aspects and user needs, but also the use cases again. So please join us tomorrow again. Thank you.
Use of the fixed mic since it's here. Thank you very much, Armin, for your great moderation this afternoon, and of course to Alain earlier on. You've done some of the work for me, which was to remind everybody about the breakout sessions tomorrow. We've heard some great conversation today. I think we've discussed from this morning, we had comments about the islands of opportunity. This evening we were talking about optimization and even learning from failures and hard lessons learned and how to move forward. So I think a lot of that was discussed. I heard outside as well in the foyer, a lot of networking going on, a lot of discussions. Again, not surprising since it's the first time in person since 2019. And of course, it's not over. I am sure you've all read the programme. There is a big event happening up the road, a reception that is co-sponsored by EUCAR and the European Commission up at Auto World. If you're not familiar with it, it is a fabulous building. I'm a Brussels resident, and I can assure you it is well worth the effort, even just to go up there and walk around the exhibitions and take advantage of the opportunity to see more of each other, but also to have that reception. You go out the door, walk straight up the road. It's a gorgeous sunny evening, and I guarantee you I do not get the opportunity to say that in Brussels very often. You can't miss it. Straight up the road, through the Schumann roundabout, past the bombing memorial, into Parc Saint-Contenaire, to the Arc de Triomphe. It's beautiful. I really hope that you will make the most of it. Tomorrow, please be back here. We start again at 9. Tonight at Auto World, you will need your badges, so please keep them. You're also going to need your badges again tomorrow for more of our great discussions, and I hope you will join in that. And of course, keep sharing on social media. Use the hashtag EUCAD2023 and take advantage of all the photo ops up at Auto World to share with and make people jealous on social media. Have a lovely evening. I hope to see you all here again tomorrow morning.